So, good morning students. We are going to see the second part of the lesson, The Portrait of the Lady by Khushwant Singh, 11th standard, English, first prose. Okay. The last session we saw the bond between the author and the grandmother. They had lived in the village and they had a nice bondage. They went to the temple, studied scriptures. She studied, the grandmother studied scriptures. The author learnt all the scriptures also and studied everything in village. And next, the time has come for him to go to the city because their parents had been well settled in the city. So they started calling, inviting Khushwant Singh and grandmother to the city, and that is the turning point in Khushwant Singh and the connection between Khushwant Singh and grandmother. That is the turning point where they get little separated. Okay, so from this we are going to see the second part. Okay, as the years rolled by, we saw less of each other. They started to see less of each other. The connection became thin. Okay. For some time, she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. When I came back, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. This made her unhappy. She could not help me with my lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. One day, I announced that we were being given music lessons. She said nothing, but a silence meant disapproval. She rarely talked to me after that. So, this is the thing what happened when Khushwant Singh started to learn in the city. He has gone to a school there, and when he had returned from the school, the grandmother is questioning him, what did they teach you? And Khushwant Singh, the narrator, the author, is telling that they had taught me English words, Archimedes' principle, law of gravity, etc., so and so, which is completely not liked by the grandmother. And she is somewhat distressed. She is not able to help the author in his studies, so she feels distressed. At a point of time, we can see that the other day, one day, Khushwant Singh is telling that they are teaching music lessons, which is completely, we can see the grandmother not responding to any of Khushwant Singh's words when he said that they are giving music lessons. So that is how we can see the grandmother's completely not interested in paying attention to the author. Okay, so she does not like the thing that they do not teach scriptures about God in the city, whereas in village they taught about God, scriptures and those things, but that is completely rejected in the city. So that is why we can see the grandmother is not liking and she is completely left him. When I went up to the university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted a seclusion with resignation. Now we can see the author is going to the university, and there it is completely, we can see the friendship has been cut between the grandmother, or the relationship or the connection between the grandmother and the grandson has been completely cut when he has gone to the university. The only thing which gave company to the grandmother was the spinning wheel, where she sat there always spinning and spinning, okay, and the meantime feeding the in the meantime feeding the sparrows. That was only her pastime and enjoyable time and the happiest time that the grandmother would spend the whole day. I would read that. Okay, the common link of friendship was snapped. Snapped means cut. My grandmother accepted a seclusion. She started becoming isolated. Okay, and she accepted with resignation. She understood that. Okay, she rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. She's keeping on spinning. Okay, from sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel, spinning and reciting prayers. She was keeping on telling prayers. Okay, only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while. In the afternoon, in between time, she relaxed for a while, and in that time, she was feeding food for the sparrows. While she sat in the veranda, breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected around her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirruping. Okay, those birds surrounded her. You can see in the picture. Okay, those birds, those sparrows, they all come and sit together, and they started eating the breadcrumbs given by the grandmother. We can see one sparrow sitting on the shoulder. We can see one sparrow sitting on her head. Okay, that much connection she had with the birds. Okay, chirruping. Chirruping means what? The birds making noise, voice. Okay, the voice of the birds. That is what we say, chirruping. Some came and perched on her legs, others on her shoulders, some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. Shooed means what? Chasing the birds. Okay, that is what it used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, so when he decided to go abroad, foreign, for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset, because the connection has become very, very thin, nearly almost over between the grandson and the grandmother. I would be away for 5 years, and at her age, one could never tell. My grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. Okay, but we could see the grandmother is very strong, very mentally strong. Okay, she understands that her grandson is going abroad for studies. Okay, but she is not worrying. She is not sentimental, and she is very bold. We can see that she came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show any emotion. So she is coming to send off her grandson. Okay, she did not show any emotion. Only thing that she just kissed her grandson's forehead and bade him goodbye. Okay, her lips moved in prayer. She was always telling prayers. Her lips moved in prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. I told you before, it's starting, right from the starting, we can see the grandmother telling prayers of her rosary. Rosary means what? A kind of chain they have in the hand, and they used to do like this. Okay, telling the mantras, and that is what we say, rosary. Okay, silently she kissed my forehead. When I left, I cherished means what? Enjoying, loving that moment. Okay, grandmother kissing the grandson. Okay, cherished that moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of the physical contact between us. But that was not so. After 5 years, I came back. So the author is returning back after 5 years of studies. Okay, and was met by her at the station. Once again, he is going abroad. He is doing his studies. After 5 years, he is returning back, and he is seeing once again the grandmother has come to receive her grandson. But we can see that she did not look a day older. She did not look a day older. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. She is holding her grandson's hand, but she is not speaking anything. Only thing that she is keeping on reciting, telling her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed long and whom she fed longer, and with the frivolous rebukes. Okay, so the first day after a long time, the grandson is returning after returning from foreign. We can see the grandmother holding the grandson's hand, and she is not giving importance to her grandson, but she is giving importance on the very first day of the grandson's arrival. On the very first day, she is giving importance to the sparrows only, okay, by feeding them, scolding them, not seriously. That is what frivolous rebukes. Frivolous means not very serious, not very serious. Okay, not very serious, but scolding the sparrows, not seriously. Okay, so frivolous rebukes means scolding. In the evening, a change came over her. So that evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of her neighborhood, got an old drum, and started to sing. So this is what something you can say different from the grandmother, that she is borrowing an old drum from her neighborhood and started beating the drum. Okay, for several hours she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of the warriors. The song was about the homecoming of warriors who had gone for a battle. Okay, about the warriors who had gone for battle. The song was about that. She took a drum and started singing songs. Okay, we had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining. Okay, she started banging, okay, knocking the drum, and that was a situation where the family members had to persuade her, to convince her not to overstrain due to her old age. Okay, that was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. So that was the first time we can see the grandmother had stopped praying, okay, for a while. The next morning she was taken ill. The next day, okay, she became ill. It was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go, the fever would go. The doctor is giving confident that it was a mild fever and it will go away. But you can see, but my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. So she was keeping on reading prayers. Okay, before the last chapter, she told that my end is near, and she understood very clearly. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. She decided not to spend her last moments by talking to anybody. She wanted to spend her last moment by telling prayers. We protested. So the family members, including the author, they started to protest, to tell her not to tell the prayers. Okay, but she ignored protest. Okay, protest means denying, resisting her not to pray. But we can see she is ignoring means what? Rejecting everybody, and she was always in prayers. She lay peacefully in bed praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. Okay, so that is the end of the grandmother. Okay, before we could suspect, she had lost her life. Okay, and the rosary fell, the rosary is falling from her lifeless fingers. Okay, she is dead. A peaceful pallor spread on her face. We knew that she was dead. So after the grandmother passed away, they could see a peaceful pallor. Pallor means what? A pale appearance when everybody dies. Okay, we can see a pale appearance on the face. Okay, a peaceful. They lie down in peace. We lifted her off the bed and, as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with red shroud. They are covering the dead body with a red shroud. Shroud means cover. After a few hours of mourning, everybody is crying. Okay, mourning means crying. After a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangements for the funeral. So everybody is getting ready for the funeral ceremony of the grandmother. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. So they are all getting ready to take the grandmother, to take the dead body for cremation. Cremation means what? I have given in here. Cremation means to burn. Okay. So there are customs in Hindu customs either to bury or to cremate. Okay. Cremate means burning the dead body or burying the dead body. So that is the custom. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. Okay. Her room is filled with golden light of the sun. We stopped halfway in the courtyard, all over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff, wrapped in the red shroud. Thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. So on the way in the veranda, we could see the sparrows which the grandmother had been feeding. Okay, all over the time in the afternoon. Okay, those birds were there. There was no chirruping. So this is what we understand from the animals. Even the birds could understand that something wrong has gone in this house, and they have stopped chirruping. Chirruping means what? The voice of the birds. We felt sorry for the birds. Okay, they are not going to see the grandmother hereafter, those birds. We felt sorry. So the every author and his family are feeling sorry for the birds. Okay, and my mother fetched some bread for them. The mother is taking some breads and feeding the sparrows, but we could see the sparrows are not eating the bread crumbs. Okay, she broke it into little crumbs the way my grandmother used to and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. So it was quite different from the sparrows. The sparrows also could read and understand the grandmother's compassion to the birds. Okay, but rather it's a different lady. Okay, putting breadcrumbs which is not accepted by the sparrows. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, when the dead body, corpse means dead body. Corpse means dead body. When they carried the dead body off, they flew away quietly. When they carried the body of the grandmother, the birds flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So the breadcrumbs were not eaten by the birds, which was given by the mother. Okay, instead the birds just flew away quietly when the grandmother passed away. Okay, so that was a connection. That was the happiest hour the grandmother was with the birds. So from this story, I hope you might have understood many things. The connection between the grandmother and the grandson, and particularly a special old lady spending her time with the sparrows, the dogs, and that is how this lesson is getting over. Thank you for the time. We will see in the next video.